and this is a podcast about all things My Chemical Romance. For this first episode, we wanted to answer the question, who the hell is MCR and what is this podcast about? But first, we want to tell you a little bit about us.
So, we are two friends, almost living together.
Almost.
Who know a lot about MCR for some reason. We don't have anything to do with this knowledge.
Yeah, we're putting it to good use. We're going to become historians.
Yes, we think we're putting it to good use. What else should we say about ourselves?
We met at a Frank concert.
That's true.
That was good. We met through the Toro buddy system for a Frank concert, and we just became really good friends there, and now we're going to live together and do the podcast and stuff.
There's more in between, like, it makes more sense that we're living together
than
we met at a Frank concert, now we're living together.
We didn't meet in line and be like, all right, you want to be roommates?
Let's be roommates. Is Tour Buddies like for other concerts, or was it just a Frank thing?
I think it was just a Frank thing. Ode to Frank put it together, and it's just for Frank concerts. So I haven't seen it for Gerard concerts, but he hasn't been on tour in a while, so.
Sad but true.
Sad.
At the time that we thought of doing this podcast, there wasn't another My Chem podcast out there, and now there is, and they're great.
They're friends in LA, and yeah, they have a really good podcast. They only have, as of today, they only have one episode out, but it's been a month, so I think they might be putting another one out soon. They're called Still Not Okay Podcast, so if you want to check them out and listen to us also, then feel free. That'll be fun.
Feel free.
Talk about MCR a lot. Like in one day, you listen to both of those podcasts.
You'll learn so much.
You will. You could write a paper on it.
You really could. At my work, we talked about having a paper writing club. And this is like a substitute for that.
That's so nerdy.
It really was. But you know what? I was really excited about it. Like doing a 3 to 5 page paper on just a topic. That sounds great.
Yeah. So, yeah, so that's what we're doing and why and how it started.
We'll be going track by track through each of the albums, talking about different musical elements, talking about the history of the songs and the albums, talking about different themes that come up. And we'll be doing B-sides too, and I think album wrap-up episodes at the end of each album to talk about things that may not have come up with each song, but which are, significant to the album. If enough people are interested and we get the resources, we might do interviews or have guests, and we hope to maybe take questions from you guys, do some Q&As, and if you have any suggestions, you can send them in. We'll set up, we do have a Gmail.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about all that at the end.
That's true. At the end.
Yeah, but we have a lot to say about the music, and I've written like full-on essays.
You sure have, girl.
About these songs. I have so much to say.
Your folder is a lot fuller than my folder as far as episode notes.
I have a lot of prep.
We'll both have a lot of prep by then. But for this episode, we're not starting with bullets right away. We're starting with talking about the formation of MCR and some of their demos and some of the really early recordings they did before they did the Bullets album.
Yeah, so if you don't know who My Chemical Romance is, they're a band from Jersey, and they're 5...
Jersey.
Oh, jeez. They're 5 guys that started a band, and they became one of the biggest rock bands of the 2000s. So it started in 2002. Gerard started the band after 9/11, and if you're a regular fan or if you're a hardcore fan, you have heard this story 8 billion times. But I know you want to hear it again because I know you watch Life on the Murder Scene every week. I know you do.
Don't tell people what they want. You can't tell people what they watch. Listen, you guys are free to do what you want.
I already know that people do this, though. I watch Life on the Murder Scene at least once a week.
We watch Life on the Murder Scene as like a celebration.
It's so good.
At the end of last year. But yeah, so they're a New Jersey band from 2002. Started in 2001. I think Gerard did the first recordings in December of 2001 with Ray and Matt in Matt's attic.
In reference to the members, Gerard was the lead singer. He is... God. He is described as the slightly off-center genius or the leader, an artist. He is also known as a basement dweller. He's
It sounds like we're bad mouthing him. We're
It's
not.
not. He just is.
He lived in a basement. Listen, he lived in a basement. His parents' house. I love the pictures from the basement with all of his like what Lord of the Rings dagger or something.
Yeah, the Hobbit sword.
The Hobbit sword.
He is currently he's a comic book artist, or not artist, but writer. He does Doom Patrol and a bunch of he's so involved in the comics world, and he's incredible. He's always a really talented writer, really talented musician.
He started out with a strong interest in horror and comics, D&D, Lord of the Rings, Magic the Gathering, other sorts of nerd culture, I guess. And he had been working as a cartoonist before 9/11, before he decided to start the band. And it pitched a cartoon, Breakfast Monkey, to Cartoon Network, which was not picked up, but is available on YouTube, and you should watch it.
You should. It's really funny. I'm pretty sure he voices most of the characters.
He voices Breakfast Monkey and is it Crazy Man? Or
Yeah,
Action
Crazy
Man?
Kid.
Crazy Kid.
Crazy Kid. Yeah, he sings that song, and
I heard a rumor that he did the Breakfast Monkey voice like with his girlfriend when he was cooking her pancakes.
I've heard that as well.
I hope that's true.
I really hope it is true, because
it's a very specific voice.
Yeah, really. Yeah, so that's Gerard. He was the lead singer. Next guy is Frank, and he joined during the making of the first album. So he wasn't one of the founding members, but he joined in when they were recording the first album. And he was in a band called Pensy Prep, which was a band that he had formed before that, and they were touring and they were helping MCR get on their feet and do some shows, and he really liked MCR. So when Pensy Prep disbanded, they were like, hey, do you want to come play with us? And he said, absolutely, this is my favorite band. So he was the rhythm guitarist, and he is now a solo artist, and I know he would hate that, a solo artist.
Well, I mean,
I think he just considers the term a little cringy, like
probably because it implies that you were part of something and now you're not part of something.
Yeah, I mean, which is true, but
it's true. I think also, I mean, there's that story that he would give Jeff Rickley rides to Eyeball Studios every day, and then Jeff wore him down about joining MCR. And I wish I remember the story about Ray, like Ray was talking in the studio about them needing another guitarist, and someone was like, well, we're gonna get one.
Yeah, he's too high to get off the couch.
He's too high to go, because he would sit on their practices.
So Frank has been in band since he was 11, though, and he's always been in bands, always been playing music, and he's just kind of one of those people that you can't imagine him doing anything else, because that he lives and breathes music. That is just what he does. And I don't know if he likes performing so much as just writing music.
Oh, I think he likes performing.
Sometimes.
Absolutely.
Well, he likes performing when he's not in the front.
Right.
He's more comfortable with it now, but when he started out doing like frontman stuff, he's super not into it. Yeah, he's cool with it now.
So the bassist for MCR is Mikey Way, who's Gerard's brother. He's described as everyone's little brother of the band, because I think he and Frank are around the same age. He might be.
I think Mikey's a year older.
Yeah, because I think Frank was always the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
He and Gerard are brothers, and they've always been interested in music together. They used to go to Smashing Pumpkins concerts together, and they went to one Smashing Pumpkins concert in Madison Square Garden. And I think Gerard had a shaved head at that time, because he looked a lot like Billy Corgan.
I can't imagine.
No, that'd be really weird, like a cue ball. It couldn't have been that shaved. I think he had to have like a crew cut or something.
Yeah.
Whatever you call that.
A buzz cut.
But they were at this concert, and I think they were both really moved by it and looked at each other and kind of said that, we need to do that. We need to get on stage and start a band. And I don't know the time relationship between that concert and 9/11 / starting MCR, but I think it's probably one of the factors to starting the band, of just having that thought, in the back of your mind. And Mikey learned bass to join MCR. He didn't know it beforehand. Before he joined MCR, he did try to join Pensy Prep and was not good enough.
Poor Mikey. That must have been a little awkward at some point.
No. I'm sure it was fine.
I think one of the reasons that Mikey really got into music was because he wanted to hang out with his brother. And, just kind of impress him.
I know he wanted to impress him, but they definitely wanted to, do music together as a project.
But one of the reasons I got into music and playing piano and singing is because my sister was into it. And when we were kids and, living in the same house, she had a keyboard in her room, and she would just play it occasionally, and I would go in, and I was like maybe 6 or 7, and I would just go bang on the keyboard, and I broke it at some point.
Wow.
But I would just like play around on it. I listened to like Oliver and Company, where they had the da 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 da. I learned to play that on piano because I was super into that. And she took voice lessons, so I wanted to take voice lessons. So I think it would be kind of the same deal. That's at least from a little sibling point of view, is that you want to be like your sibling, you want to hang out with them, you want to get into the same stuff as them.
And Mikey also at the time was sort of like, he was very into the music scene in New Jersey and was kind of a social butterfly about it. I think he knew a lot of people and was sort of everyone's friend in that New Jersey punk community. So I think that also had something to do with it, of like being around that much. And finally, last but certainly not least, is Ray Toro. He's the lead guitarist of MCR and kind of a musical genius.
Definitely a musical genius.
He also got into music because of his sibling, his brother.
See, this is a theme.
Listen, I don't have any siblings. I don't know. But he also got into music because of his brother. I think his brother gave him his first guitar, which was it the Les Paul Studio? Because if so,
he
kept that for a long time. I think he was playing with a different band at the time called the Rodneys. Was he playing drums or was he doing guitar?
I think he was doing drums or something. It was not lead guitar. I know that because I remember they were talking about it, and Gerard was like, "What are you doing? Like, you need to be playing guitar."
Yeah, Gerard had known him before, maybe through a mutual friend or through Mikey or something.
I think they met through an art friend, in one of Gerard's art friends. And I know that Ray and Mikey were closer than Ray and Gerard were, but after...
because Mikey knew everyone.
So right.
He knew Ray.
And after 9/11 happened and all that, Gerard just kind of called everyone up and said, "Hey, do you want to start a band?" And they're like, "Heck yeah, let's go."
Heck yeah. Nowadays, since MCR has ended, he recorded his own album called Remember the Laughter, which he did all himself, all the instruments and vocals and all the mixing and recording. He didn't tour on it or anything. It was just sort of self-released. But give it a listen.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's good. He also posts a lot about Apple products.
He's such a tech nerd.
He's just a nerd. He did a lot of producing for the band as far as like mixing demos and whatnot. When they were touring on Revenge, they were sort of recording some demos for Black Parade in the back of their bus, and Ray would do the producing on that. So he's always been sort of the man with the plan. I think I've also heard that he did maybe not most of, but like was a driving force behind a lot of the musical composition.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And we've talked about this before. If they ever make a musical version of the Black Parade, he and Gerard need to team up for that score, because that would be so cinematic and so big. It would just, oh my gosh.
I mean, everyone in MCR is obviously important.
Right.
But Ray and Gerard, I think, are the core of it.
Yeah.
As far as Gerard has the ideas and also the lyrics.
Yeah.
And like the aesthetic direction. And then I think Ray has a lot to do with the musical direction, because he was really into metal, and so there's a lot of metal influence on those records.
Right.
And obviously all of his solos. So
My Chemical Romance had kind of a drummer curse. They went through a few drummers, and if you know the history of the band, you know most of the reasons why this has happened, but we'll go through them. Just kind of a vague description.
That's what this podcast is for, vague descriptions of MCR-related facts.
As I said, they began with 5 members. The first drummer was Matt, I don't know how to say his last name, Pellissier? Something like that.
Pellissier sounds familiar to me.
I don't know.
Maybe they would have said
People say it different ways. Anyway, but they also called him Otter. I don't know why. I don't think I want to know. He was the first drummer. He was there for Bullets and most of Revenge. He was not there for the touring and things like that of Revenge. But he recorded both of those albums with them and wrote all the songs with them.
And he was integral to MCR recording their first few songs when it was just Gerard, Matt, and Ray, because they recorded them in his attic.
Right. Those are called the attic demos. Known as
the attic.
The attic demos. They have like an official name.
Are they Dreams of Stabbing?
dreams of stabbing and or being stabbed,
Mm-hmm.
which is so edgy.
So So after Matt was there for the recording of Revenge, got kicked off before they toured Revenge for reasons currently unknown.
Well, we can guess, but I don't want to do a lot of speculation on it.
Reasons currently unknown. And their second drummer was Bob Bryar, who used to be a sound tech on tour. I think they met him on tour with The Used.
Mm-hmm.
But he was also a really good drummer. He had, I think, tested out the drums for sound reasons on stage once, and they realized, oh my god, this guy's a really good drummer. And they invited him to drum with them after Matt left. And it was a really short period of time. I think it was a matter of days between when he joined and when they were recording the video for I'm Not Okay. So he really just kind of had to jump in there.
Yeah.
And during that video, they tried not to do a lot of close-ups of him just in case it didn't work out.
Right.
But it worked out. And he was a drummer for a really long time. Through all of touring Revenge, through recording Black Parade, touring Black Parade, and through recording Conventional Weapons and Danger Days. But then, for reasons, again, currently unknown, but we could speculate, he was also kicked out of the band.
Left the band, kicked out. We don't know.
Yeah, I actually don't think we know. I think it was just the note was just like Bob Bryar is no longer with MCR or something. I don't know. R.I.P. Bob. I think he became a realtor.
He did a lot of stuff after he left, but we can talk about that at another time as well.
Oh yeah. So after Bob, their next drummer was a man named Mike Petticone. And I think Mike filled in for Bob on Parade.
Yeah.
I think Petticone was a name we'd heard before.
Right. No, he definitely was. He was a drummer in a band called The Bled. They were friends with The Bled. They brought him out on the Project Revolution tour, and they were like, look at this beautiful specimen of man. Take your shirt off.
Take it off. And he did.
He sure did. He was like, I don't know what the heck is going on, but, here we are.
And he was with the band for most, or at least half, of touring Danger Days. However, he also left the band, and in the note that I believe Frank posted after he left, is because he had, quote unquote, been caught red-handed stealing from the band. According to him, he wanted to frame this roadie that he didn't like and get them kicked out, and he apologized for it, but nonetheless, he left the band. So after him, they'd never had an official drummer again. They had a guy who filled in called Jared Alexander, who also did some drums on Hesitant Alien, which is Gerard's solo album when they toured.
He helped Frank out on Stomach Aches as well.
Yeah.
And he's done a lot with this band.
Yeah, he's good people. And they also had Matt Cortez, who was a guitar tech. He filled in a couple times, both for Frank and for Mikey, when both of them had to be out on tours for various reasons.
Yeah.
And again, last but not least, James Dewees is their longtime keyboardist. I think they probably met him when he was on tour with them with Reggie and the Full Effect.
Right.
But James has also, been in music and in the scene for a really long time with the Ghetto Kids.
Mm-hmm.
And he did keyboards for them on tours a lot and the studio. And he was heavily involved with Danger Days because Danger Days has a lot of keys and interesting sounds on it. And he was going to be a full-time member of the band for their last album, MCR5.
But that didn't happen.
Didn't happen. So he's an honorary member.
I love Dewees. I love him.
I love him. So as we mentioned, all these guys are from New Jersey, except for Bob, who is from Chicago. Mm-hmm. And actually, I can't speak for Jared or Cortez or anyone.
Yeah, I don't know where they're from.
For our purposes, this is a band from New Jersey. And most of them are from Belleville. Ray Torres from Kearney. And Belleville they described it as a really sketchy town where there's bodies in the river. It was also used as a filming location for The Sopranos, so maybe that gives some credence to the sketchiness of it.
Yep.
But it's also right on the border between Jersey and New York, and you can see the Manhattan skyline from Belleville in some places. So it's kind of strange. I don't know. When we were there, I felt like it was really strange.
It was a little surreal to be in a super suburban neighborhood and look over the trees and see the New York skyline.
Because it's just right there.
It really is. I didn't realize how close it was, but it's super close.
Yeah, I feel like that does things to you psychologically. Just seeing, the city right there, and of course you can get to the city, via bus and train pretty easily. But also, I think it drives you a little insane growing up in like a small town and seeing the city right there and feeling like you don't belong and the city's right there. I don't know. I feel like it's weird. But they were all described themselves as sort of outcast kids growing up who are on the fringes. They listen to a lot of metal between them. Gerard and Ray especially listen to a lot of metal.
Mm-hmm.
Frank is obviously a more punk influenced person. All the guys together as a group had an interest in horror movies and in comics. They were interested in monsters and superheroes and people who were outcasts, in these stories, but managed to make up for it somehow.
And I think that the way they grew up and where they grew up had a lot of influence on the band's aesthetic and sound. I think that attributes to a lot of what the band is how they grew up.
Yeah, and also the location. New Jersey has a really significant punk and emo scene. Not necessarily in the place where they lived. It's a little bit further south in New Brunswick, but it's has a really rich history of that, of doing a lot of basement shows, and a lot of other emo bands came from that area, or from DC, and so there was a lot of that influence going around. So the fact that they're from New Jersey is not a coincidence.
So when they started off, as we said, with the attic demos, which is dreams about stabbing and or being stabbed, and it was recorded in Matt's attic. As quoted by Matt, he said, "My attic had no walls. It was a wooden, run-down piece of crap. I had a really cheap 16-track board, and we had a bunch of crappy mics. I basically had the drums and guitars playing upstairs and ran the mics downstairs and had Gerard sing in the bathroom." So that gives you kind of an idea of they were kind of they were DIYing this.
Very DIY. And they used those ad demos to get Mikey to learn bass. Because those ad demos were just Gerard, Matt, and Ray, and they used it to get Mikey to join, and also probably to pass around and get interest. But that was sort of their first foray into My Chemical Romance and seeing what they could put together. And I believe that Vampires, that version of Vampires, was the first song they ever recorded.
Yeah.
It's not the first, track, but I think it's the first that they did together. And Vampires was also the track where Gerard realized that, he couldn't do this himself.
Yeah, he needed someone else to play guitar so he could focus on singing.
Yeah, I think he said it's too complicated, which is fair. It is too complicated. Fair. So the other tracks on the album are a track called 9 Volt, which...
I don't think that's a real thing, though.
It may or may not be a real thing. I've heard that it could be a Smashing Pumpkins cover, and there were lyrics of some sort posted for it, but I don't know exactly where those lyrics came from. So 9 Volt's kind of a mystery of whether or not that is an actual MCR track.
I'm skeptical. I don't think it's real. But what was officially on the track list was Turnstiles, which then became Skylines and Turnstiles on their first album. A song called Bring More Knives, which became Our Lady of Sorrows as we know it.
Bring More Knives is very Bullets aesthetic.
Yep. There was Cubicles, which remained Cubicles, and simply put, Stabbing,
which was the early version of Vampires. And these attic demos are also the demos that Pensy Prep got a hold of, and they were the demos that Frank and his band listened to while they were practicing, and they were the band that Frank heard when he decided to join the band.
Frank was in an interview. He said these demos were super not together. They didn't
I don't doubt that.
They didn't sound good. They were all over the place. You could tell that it was very. They were new at this, but he said that he just loved the rawness of it and the realness, and that's what they listened to beforehand to kind of get them pumped up for shows.
So the second early MCR recording that there is an official recording after they got together with Eyeball Records, and they officially recorded this, in a real studio with real direction and a real producer. And so this release was called Like Phantoms Forever. This is one of the ones that you can find. They're very rare, but it's a CD you can get a hold of. You can't get a hold of Dreams of Stabbing. But Like Phantoms Forever was a real thing that you could actually hold in your hands.
I think 500 copies were made, or 1,000.
I think it's less than that. It's definitely not 1,000. I thought it was 100 when we looked it up.
No, I'm pretty sure it was 500.
It's a low number.
Yeah, it is really low.
Has a great cover, though. And the tracks on this were Vampires, a different version of Vampires, probably closer to the one that we know.
Right.
This is the Best Day Ever, which is a track that also made it onto Bullets, and a cover of Jack the Ripper by Morrissey, which is very good.
It's so good. It goes hard.
And I think that was a live recording, not a studio recording.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 early releases that they did as far as songs they put together and recorded together on more or less an album, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
Other early songs they did were Sisters Sleep, which was they probably recorded in a studio, but we don't have that. We just have live recordings of it. But it was meant to be on the soundtrack for Freddy vs. Jason and didn't make it there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's based on a comic called The Sandman by Neil Gaiman, where the sister of sleep is death.
Right.
This is the aesthetic.
Yeah, that's them in a nutshell. So that is the beginnings of My Chemical Romance, and we'll be talking a lot about their albums and their songs and their aesthetics and a lot of things that we're going to be getting into.
There's a lot of recurrent themes in My Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
A lot of common threads.
I think it will be really interesting to explore. I'm excited about it.
And our future episodes aren't going to be like this one in really any shape or form. They're going to be dramatically different.
Pretty much.
They're going to be a lot more put together. They're going to be a lot more...
No, they won't.
Don't say that. But we're going to have more of an agenda for those. We'll usually be looking at a set of 2 to 4 songs, depending on, what's on the record, and analyzing them more in depth.
Yeah, but if you want to get at us in the meantime, you can find us on Twitter at Chemical Fancast, also on Instagram at Chemical Fancast. Mm-hmm. We have a Facebook page, My Chemical Fancast. If you want to ask us any questions or just talk to us or anything, feel free. Our Gmail is mychemicalfancast@gmail.com. Mm-hmm. If you want to get anything and get really ahead of the game, we have a Society 6, which has our logo, and I have a travel mug with this logo on it, and
it's just a really good logo.
I'm so in love with this travel mug, but it's society6.com/mychemicalfancast.
I'm trying to remember who the artist's name was for that.
Matthew Therian is the artist of our logo.
Bless you, sir.
He's so good.
It's very good. And that's pretty much all we've got for today. We'll post another episode soon. I'm not sure we're posting this one, maybe in late July or something like that.
International MCR Day.
What?
Yeah, July 23rd. That's the one I want to go for.
Okay, I thought it was really International MCR Day. I was like, I didn't hear about that before. But so yes, we'll be posting this, and the next episode should be the first sort of official episode. The first episode where we'll really get into the albums. We'll post that a week or at worst 2 weeks after. Mm-hmm. But very soon. You got anything else?
I think we have covered a lot today. We have covered a lot.
Covered a lot of ground. Well, I'm Kat.
And I'm Haley.
And this is My Chemical Fancast. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.